Hi gang, Mr. Ed here for another episode of Mr. Ed Draws, and in this episode I draw nothing for Inktober. And so let me explain that. I've been suffering from some artist block and some depression, as have a lot of the people that I know. And I know why I'm depressed. I'm just curious why so many other people are, and I have kind of a theory for it that maybe I'll talk about later, but first I just wanted to talk about what's driving my depression, if you guys care to hear about it at all. I have autism, and I have this condition called dysthemia where I run a low-grade depression all the time. It's just something I'm always kind of depressed. It's not something that drives me crazy, and I've had it for so long that it just feels like normal for me, and that's just a part of life. But when I get extra depressed, it feels really bad. It's not just like melancholy or whatever. It's like ugh. It's hard to stay awake. I just want to sleep all the time. I don't want to eat. I don't want to care for myself. It's just awful. And it doesn't happen too often, and it's not really the depths of that right now, but I can feel that there is this egging pressure from, I'm going to say, my environment, in particular the news and what's going on in society and politically and around the world. Maybe I'm paying too much attention to it, maybe I'm thinking about it too much, but it is definitely weighing on me, and has now for the last couple years. As there's some coincidence there, I'm sure you can figure it out. But more importantly, I wanted to talk about doing this Inktober is kind of a pressure to perform. And I have some drawings that I've done. This is like my day 7, and it's 11. It's the 11th of October as a recording of this. So I'm a few days behind, and it's because I have pictures that I've drawn that I just don't want to upload. I just don't feel like it's Inktober worthy, but that's what I sketched for that day, and that's the best I could do. So I just didn't upload them, and every day is different. So some days I wake up and I'm just not feeling it. Some days I've worked, and that's taken a lot out of me. So it's highly variable whether or not I'm going to be able to perform, and that's causing a lot of inhibition on my creativity. So this pressure to perform has kind of driven this piece, because I started out drawing nothing. I just draw nothing. I mean, how hard is it to just draw nothing? So it turns out it can be tricky to not be deliberate and to have some shape or some form that would allow this. And if you're deliberate toward that intention, toward creating a shape that would allow you to just be as free in your creativity as possible, then you're constrained. So I just started out squiggling in the center, just doing a little spiral, because that's what I feel like sometimes when I get depressive and things aren't being taken care of like they should. I just feel like I'm spiraling downward. So I just went with that feeling and tried to get the creative passion to emerge from that, and it did, without any pressure to create a particular shape or subject or form. Just putting ink lines on the page with this particular formula of just going around. It was fun. I enjoyed it, and the desire to want to do things differently was a natural process. It wasn't anything that I had to think about. It just emerged from this process, and I love what it created. I actually feel like this is one of the best of my Inktober pieces. Now, others may disagree, and I respect that absolutely, and absolutely understand it, because I have a different kind of aesthetic. But I really enjoyed this piece. I think it speaks to kind of the turmoil of having this creative block, and that iconography actually came out of the emotion of that. So it's weird how those things kind of flow together. We think of the tumult of like a storm and this vortex where everything's spinning around you and you can't really focus on any one thing. It's just all just flying around in a blur. It's a theme, not just in our environment, but it's also a theme in our minds and in our lives. So I think it's interesting how that shape and form came out of the feeling. Really interesting to me. And I wasn't trying for any of that. It just happened. Have you ever started eating something, you weren't hungry, and you started eating something, and all of a sudden you're like, man, I'm really hungry, and you just kind of get ravenous and just devour whatever it is, and you didn't realize how hungry you were before you started eating? That's kind of how artist block is for me. Sometimes it's uh, just getting myself started, just transitioning from whatever state I'm in now into the creative state. I feel like there should be some prompt in my mind. It's like, oh yeah, let's do this. Uh, and when that's not there, I feel blocked. So sometimes it's just a matter of getting into my studio, setting down, looking around at what's available to create with. Um, if I want it to be simple, just grab the simplest things, a pen and a piece of paper. Sometimes it's just sitting in my chair where I sit most of the time to be comfortable and just drawing there, not in front of a camera, not in trying to record it or anything like that, or even post it for people to see, just drawing for drawing's sake or creating for creative sake. Um, a lot of times I find out that once I start, it grows, the feeling grows. So sometimes that can be a break. For me, it may not work for others, and it doesn't always work for me. So um, if you're really frustrated, maybe just try that, I guess. And to get back to my theory about why so many people are depressed now, it's just the time we live in. There's a lot of information that we are inundated with from a lot of different perspectives and voices, and it's sometimes hard to discern what we should grasp a hold of. You know, we always feel like we're firmly rooted in some belief, and then turn around, it's not right. So that can be really difficult and challenging right now, and especially when it happens so frequently. So that's kind of my theory, and maybe something to think about, and I hope it helps. So thanks for watching this episode. I really appreciate you visiting and subscribing, all the new faces that have stopped by. Thank you. And until next time, as always, take care.